Welcome to the Career Slay podcast, the show where we interview people who love their jobs and discuss career growth, fearless leadership, and creating a life you love. I'm your host, Kelly Pokes-Burke, a marketer turned executive coach, and I'm here to help you lead with courage and slay the fear in career. If you're a fan of these conversations and want to dive deeper into your own career and leadership questions, book a coaching discovery call with me at careerslay.com. Ivonne Kinser is a marketing innovator and trailblazer known for challenging the status quo. As the former head of marketing and innovation at Avocados from Mexico, she led the brand to be recognized as one of Fast Company's most innovative companies globally in 2021. Her work has earned over 40 accolades for creativity and performance, including successful digital Super Bowl campaigns. Recently, Ivonne founded Vantage Creative Group, a marketing firm helping challenger brands grow, and serves as a fractional CMO for various companies. She's a sought-after keynote speaker on disruptive marketing and creativity and published her first book, Think, the Manifesto for Creative and Critical Thinkers in 2023. Ivonne's approach to marketing is characterized by bold creativity and unconventional problem-solving, making her a true pioneer in the field. I'm so excited for you to hear this incredible conversation with my mentor and friend, Ivonne Kinser. Her journey from Venezuela to becoming a lifetime achievement marketing powerhouse is truly inspiring. Ivonne's story is a testament to the power of resilience, believing in yourself, and staying true to your values. We talk in depth about creativity, originality, how to overcome self-doubt and fear, and how to innovate your own career path. I hope this episode inspires you to approach your careers with the same passion and authenticity that Ivonne brings to her work every day. Thank you for joining us in Career Slay, Ivonne.
Oh, no, thank you for inviting me. I think that we're planning this over a year? And
yeah, I've been waiting to interview you.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm so excited. So let's dive in. Tell us about yourself. What were you like as a child?
I have a very interesting childhood. My mom passed away when I was 2 years old. She was 24. My dad was 27. So that kind of brought some kind of unique dynamic into my life. My dad invited his mom to come and live with him to help him raise me. Mm-hmm. And then I spent my time like a kid with divorced parents, but it was between my grandparents, my sets of grandparents. So on one side, half of my time I was spending in a house where I literally ruled a house since I was 3 years old. Uh-huh. It's just, I'm surprised that I turned out that good, being so spoiled. And then on the other side of my dad, I grew up, the dynamic was like a house with 5 children because I grew up very close with my 4 cousins, like siblings. Mm-hmm. Aside the void of losing a mom, mm-hmm. everything else around me, I had a lot of love and support from my family. My dad was an extraordinary dad. He was an engineer and he was like building bridges and roads in Venezuela. And he always found the time to be a mom as well.
Yeah.
Volleyball classes and basketball and this and that and gymnastics, everything that moms typically do. Mm-hmm. So my dad was always there. So yeah, overall it was, I grew up very happy and a lot of love around.
That's amazing. And what did you study in school?
I know that patience is a virtue and it's a virtue that I don't have. So I graduated at 16, very young, and I couldn't wait to get into the school that I wanted to study what I wanted, that was communication. Mm-hmm. But I had this opportunity to go into law. It was the only thing available quickly. Mm-hmm. And I said, I want to start now. I was only 16, I could have waited 6 months. So I started in law school, which I kind of, in my young mind, idealistic mind, I just picture myself in a trial, defending someone that, get out free because of
helping the little guy.
Exactly. Yeah. Later on in life, I realized and I learned that justice is one of my top values. So it makes sense. And then I was excited actually until I had to go through 1 year of Roman law. And I was like, this is not what I signed for. Where is my trial and all the fun stuff. But, if you think about it, the same principle that attracted me to law was the same principle that attracted me to marketing and advertising. And that principle is what I wanted was to find that little nugget in the Constitution that nobody else can find but me. And then I can just do this amazing trial and just blow it out of the water and get, justice and, for whomever it was hiding me. The same thing that I do in marketing. I still thrive for finding that nugget, that information, that piece of vision, how that's my obsession of figuring it out, the future based on the signals of the present. So I can just know something that nobody else knows. It's just the same values and the same principles. It's just different context.
Yeah, different topics. Yeah, no, I've seen you present, and you do, now that I'm thinking back, you do present like you are a prosecutor in a trial. Or should I say defendant? I don't know. One of the two.
Just doing justice.
Did you always have an entrepreneurial spirit?
That's a very interesting question because when I think about it, I never thought that I had, because I was not the kind of kid that I heard about that, I set up a lemonade stand when I was 8 years old and I saved my money and invested in this and that. That was not me at all. I was just playing Barbies, just plain and simple. But what I have is a lot of curiosity to just figuring things out. And I love to build things. I love to discover what is the opportunity that will allow me to build something that doesn't exist. It's not the typical characteristics of an entrepreneur. So it's just, I'm a maximizer. I learned later. I always like to make things better to the point of annoyance for some people. I had a boss one time that will tell me, "What do you always want to change things? Just leave it." I say, it's called innovation. I learned later. I didn't know at that point. It's just like making things better.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that everything can be better if you put a little bit more of effort. So I guess, to summarize, if you wrap all that up, I think that it could be interpreted as an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, I mean, entrepreneurs solve problems because they have this belief that things can be better. So
and curiosity to find the ways.
Right, totally.
Yeah.
So how did you find your way into marketing and advertising?
Well, eventually after I left law school, I went into marketing and advertising. I'm very in tune with the energy and the vibes around me, and I just follow those vibes, and sometimes they took me to advertising agencies, and then when I have a taste of advertising agencies, then I wanted to go back to the brand side, and I have been back and forth since then between brand and agency. I like both. I like both.
How did you get your start in Dallas?
That was in the year of 2001. I saw an ad in the newspaper that was announcing this company called Timberly McLean hiring this person to start a new business department. That's all I knew. Didn't know anything else, but it's an agency, it's near me, and they are starting a new department. So I print out my resume and just walk in that building, say, "Hi, how are you? Good morning." I told the receptionist, "I want to talk to this person." Actually, I remember her name was Christine Wan. I want to talk to her. And the receptionist looked at me like, "Who is this crazy person?" And then she said, "Do you have an appointment?" And I say, "No, but it's going to be 5 minutes." Very naive, which is a good thing sometimes. And then she said, "Well, I don't even know if she's in the building. You don't have an appointment." And I was like, I still didn't know what type of agency it was. It happened that it was the best advertising agency in the region. I didn't know that at that point. I just thought, this is great. It's a beautiful building. and they have a new department. I'm going to work here. So I told her, okay, never mind. I just sit here, quiet. I just wait for a little bit. And then I started talking with her back and forth. Like we kind of, she liked me. And then at some point she pulled a piece of paper and she said, look, I don't know if Christine is going to even come today, but here's some available positions. Maybe, one of them interests you. And then I saw one and I said, oh my gosh, they are looking for me. It was, they were looking for an account executive to oversee the American Airlines account in 20 countries across Latin America. Mm-hmm. And I told her, okay, forget about Christine. I want to apply for this. And make a long story short, 3 weeks later, I was working for the best agency in the region, Timberly McLean, overseeing the advertising account for the largest airline on earth across 20 countries in Latin America. And that was my start. And I think that opens the door for me for a dream career.
That is amazing. Oh my gosh, what a story. I love the resilience and like your persistence, and knowing you personally, I'm not surprised that you stayed there. So you said you spent the first part of your career learning the rules so that you could spend the second part of your career breaking the rules. Tell us more about the different roles that you've had to date.
First of all, I'm a rule breaker, but it's not, I'm rebellious, but it's without a reason. I do respect authority, I do, but I need to understand the why of the rule. Mm-hmm. There's some rules that simply don't make sense. And people just follow the rules even when you say, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Or sometimes it makes sense maybe 50 years ago. It doesn't make sense anymore. Why nobody's changing this? At the beginning of my career, I didn't know that. You don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. So the first companies that I started working with were traditional companies. I didn't know. I thought, this is it. This is marketing. This is going to be my life, professional life, forever. But then, like I say, I'm very observant and I like to learn. And I started looking around and I realized, wait a minute, there's other companies out there. There's smaller agencies that are more nimble and scrappy and daring and bolder. Not necessarily that that's better or worse. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not saying one is better, but as you advance in your career and you learn more, you start learning what is a better fit for you.
Yeah.
So at some point, I decided I'm going to try one of those. And then I moved to a small agency, digital agency, which I also wanted to grow within the digital space. Is something that after I had the opportunity to lead the first ever digital effort for American Airlines in Latin America, first ever. Mm-hmm. That was very exciting. I fell in love with digital. So I was, there was an opportunity to go to a small agency and it was like, oh my gosh, this is my thing. This is my tribe. This is my people. This is how I think. This is how I feel. And then I understood that there's other side of marketing that is more flexible, agile, dynamic, scrappy, bold, daring, brave.
At one point, you started your own fashion company. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, that was in one of those when I was trying to figure out, definitely I don't want to stay in these large corporations. Also, I'm an explorer, so I like to explore. I thought, I can do this. I'm going to start my fashion marketing business. So I started iFashion. For some reason, the perception of iFashion in the industry was that it was this big, large company. All of a sudden, I had requests from everyone in the industry, from producers to models. Everybody wanted to be related with iFashion, and I have this small company. I was picking up clients left and right, but then at some point, I realized this is a huge decrease in income compared to me being in corporate America. So eventually I went back to corporate America, still in a high note, because I left my company. It was very successful. It was just not, especially at that time in my life. I have young kids, single mom, so I couldn't afford that entrepreneurial adventure.
Yeah.
So I went back to corporate America, but I have beautiful memories of that time. And it taught me a lot about entrepreneurship, a lot of things that I'm using now.
Yeah. And I love how, you're being so open and honest about kind of just the positives and negatives of entrepreneurship. Is like, you have all this creative freedom, but there is that risk. A lot of people who might want to go into it, myself included, like, you feel scared at times, you know? So how did you overcome that fear?
The fear, I thought that it was just me. And I'm pretty brave, typically. So it's not easy that I feel like I'm scared. And I start feeling this. It's not bad either. It's a good fear because it keeps you like moving forward. So I start feeling this fear. It's a little bit like an anxiety because you don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. You don't know. It's the uncertainty. However, you have to trust yourself, trust your talents, and trust the process. And that works for me very well. But I start asking other entrepreneurs that have been doing this for years, very successful. And I say, hey, do you feel scared sometimes? Yeah, every day. Oh, okay.
What I love about your story is that you actually took your innovator spirit, your entrepreneurialism, and took it inside a company and made it intrapreneurialism, So tell us more about how you've built this reputation about being an innovator and a trailblazer in the industry.
It was not intentional. Like, it's not that I got up one day when I was 30 and say, I'm going to brand myself as an innovator. So that was not how it happened. Actually, I went to Avocados from Mexico where we met. Yeah. The recruiter called me to interview with the CEO. And when I went to the interview, he was looking for someone to start from the ground up, the digital marketing practice. I love his vision for the company. And he told me, hey, I'm looking for someone that helped me do what nobody else has done. And I was like, bingo, that's me. And so I started there in 2014, and it was an amazing experience because nothing was done. So there was no one that could say, that's not how we do things. Everything was new. I built a digital practice the way I think digital practices should be built. So it was an amazing time that had, I think, I could say proudly that I think I had an impact on that brand. Of course, a lot of smart people in the company and as collectively, we have built an amazing brand. But I think that I can say I'm proud of my contribution and my legacy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel super blessed to have met you during that time period and for our paths to have crossed because, I mentioned this in my episode, but you became a mentor to me and that relationship has meant so much. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And it was, the sentiment is mutual. I think one of my best experiences had been working with you over the past 2 years. And then the friendship that developed even after both left Avocados from Mexico. I think, even we have came closer even.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I even remember there was a moment we were on production and I basically was fangirling and said I came here for you. I wanted to, learn from you and be mentored by you. And I think ever since that moment, we've really grown together through the ups and downs. And it's just really cool to have someone to support you through, your career. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Likewise.
So what are you doing now?
I left and started my own company. It was not that I'm dreaming of starting my own company. That was not how it came about. I like to do my craft and I'm very passionate about that. One thing that it fulfills me the most is to help small up-and-coming brands grow. So I went and approached a few small brands and say, hey, I want to be your CMO. And they said, well, we would love to, but we cannot afford you. Mm-hmm. And then on the other hand, I was being approached by recruiters and brands, large brands. So it was a really hard decision because at that point is, okay, I either take this job and make a lot of money working for these large brands, but I'm not going to be that fulfilled. It's not what I want. Or I say, well, I can work for several small brands, and between all of them, then they can pay me. So I choose that, the second one. And every day I feel more comfortable, more confident, more hopeful because things are going really good. So I go with the flow and I trust the process. And I'm sure that the process had never failed me.
And you also mentioned you had written a book.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, my book is Think. I'm a thinker. I think a lot. I want to understand things. I challenge myself all the time to understand. And the more difficult is the topic, the more the strongest is the drive for me to understand it. So one topic that I'm very passionate about is creativity. So I found myself during the pandemic, actually reflecting a lot in all the topics related to creativity. Why some people is more creative than others? Is that really true? Or is that some people is more open to the signals of the environment and the stimuli? Or, what is fear? What is fear to failure? Is that real or is an illusion? So all the things I was just reflecting in my head. And when I came up with an interesting reflection, I will write it in my phone or whatever. And at some point, I realized that, oh, wow, I have so many interesting insights. Because when that kind of insights appear, it's like a one-time thing. Right? It's like, wow, it's like a flash of something that is very, very rich and valuable. And when I look at my notes, I say, that's I can develop this into something bigger. I have no idea what I was getting into because it's not an easy task. But when I look up and say, oh my gosh, what I got myself into, I was halfway through and there was no way that I was going to go back. So it took me 3 years. But it's one of the projects that I'm more proud of.
Any advice for aspiring writers?
First of all, you have to start. That's the most important thing. Don't think about how it's going to end. Just start. That's the most important thing. And then visualize the outcome. Don't focus on the process because then you get scared. Just visualize the outcome. When I thought that I wanted to write a book, it came to my mind the name, the cover, the color, the number of pages, the illustration, everything came to my mind. And I hold onto that image all the time. The most difficult times when I have blockage because sometimes you have it. I just had my book in my mind exactly the way I imagine it. And that just kept pulling me through. So yeah, you have to just, start. And then keep the end in mind all the time.
Yeah. So what are you doing now?
So I started my own company. It's called Vantage Creative Group. I wanted to create a company that was flexible enough to help me evolve, innovate, and bring new ideas. So that's why very intentionally I call it Vantage Creative Group, because I can fall under that other ventures, and that makes it a group of companies.
Yeah.
So I don't want to label it. It's not an agency. I do not want to be an agency. It's not, I guess I do marketing, but I don't want to label. I guess I think labels are so limiting. What I do is I solve business problems. Again, building that Vantage Creative Group allowed me to now have new ventures from the opportunities that I have seen that I didn't anticipate it before, but I have seen wait a minute, there's an opportunity here.
Yeah, that's amazing. You actually won a Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Marketing Association. What traits does a marketer need to have to be successful in this day and age?
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective because especially the last phrase in this day and age, because I think that what it required for a marketing to be successful in the past is completely different than what it is today. Think about it. In the past, think about Mad Men. You have 3 networks, 4 networks, and then you have radio and press. I mean, that was about it. Branding pretty much is the same principles, but how you solve the problems leveraging marketing, the toolbox, because I see marketing as a toolbox, the toolbox went from 7 tools to thousands, over 11,000 tools if you look at marketing technology ecosystem. So a marketer in the past, typically companies will look for someone that has a steady experience within a vertical. Mm-hmm. If you are an airline, you want someone that has been 20 years in the airline space. I think, and this is my opinion, that right now is that will be counterproductive, because what the problems today are so much more complex than in the past. So you need some sort of multidisciplinary marketers that can cross-pollinate ideas between different industries, because the real magic happens when you connect those apparently disconnected ideas and make something new, different, that differentiates your brand and disrupt. There wouldn't have been innovation in brand or at least it will be a lot less if the experiences of those disruptors will have been linear instead of, again, that cross-pollination of different ideas.
Right. And I think, you make a really great point about, we used to think that a marketing career was very linear in the fact that you would, do one job and then get promoted to the next role. But there's so many disciplines that you have to know as a marketer, not just like the brand management side, but also media and marketing technology.
Totally. And I think what have particularly helped me is that my career has been very eclectic. I don't look like a marketing as a linear discipline. Ideas that I learned when I was in the airline industry, in American Airlines, I have applied in fashion or CPG, and that is what makes it disruptive. Yeah. Because if like as a CPG, you do what other CPGs do, you're doing the same.
You're not going to stand out.
Exactly. If as an airline, you do what other airlines do, you're staying the same. But again, the magic is in that connection of something that was so unpredictable because it came from a completely different context. And that's what makes the magic. And then other than that, I think marketers today are some of like polymath somehow. And the ones that I have actually, I have a podcast also, Vantage.
I'm familiar.
Yeah. That and I have the privilege to interview like great marketers. That my idea with the podcast, it was actually to learn from them and just get that insights from their brain and put them out there in the world for other people to see. And what I have gathered from them is like they are bold, they take risk, like big time, with confidence, with a plan B, of course, with care, but they still are very open to take risk. They look at the failures as opportunities to learn. So I think that kind of embodies the modern marketer.
Mm-hmm. I love your point about taking risk. And, I think for a lot of us, failure is somewhat taboo, where we're scared to fail. We're afraid of failure. But that's kind of where the innovation and the creativity happens, is when you have to reinvent because you have no other options.
A lot of projects died before they even start because of fear of failure. And the way I look at this is that success just doesn't happen on its own. You make it. Mm-hmm. So when if I'm thinking about a project, I never think it could fail. It could fail if I let it fail, but I'm not. So is the person with the conviction behind the project the one that is going to make it succeed?
Yeah. Do you want to share your thoughts on originality and personal branding?
Yeah, I love originality, and I love originality in people as well as in brands. But I also know that is one of the most difficult things to do because, again, the fear gets in the way. And I have reflected a lot on that to write my book and to speak in conferences about creativity, that why it's so difficult to be original is because there's only one of you. So you don't have a mirror that is telling you, if I do this, that is so unique to me because I'm unique, I'm going to succeed. And then is the fear to be rejected or criticized. And then what do you do? And I'm talking about individuals and brands equally. So what do? You look at the other one that is being successful and you imitate that person. That's terrible. I mean, the perspective should be, is so wonderful that there's only one of me. That's a gift. Can you imagine that there's no one else in the world like you? And just be you. And if you look at those successful peoples or brands that others want to imitate, they are successful because they understood the wonder that is being unique and being yourself. So yeah, it's impossible to break through and to build a strong brand copying others. So I think it's really sad. Brands say, let's see what the other ones are doing. They do the same, or speakers or actors, whomever it is, trying to be someone else.
Yeah, no, I remember vividly that we had spent some time talking about branding and originality, and I was afraid to put myself out there. And it's scary because you don't want to feel the criticism, or you don't want people to be like, oh, who the heck does she think she is? But you've always been so brave about that, and you've always been so just like fierce about relentlessly being and proudly being who you are.
Yeah, well, first, I have no choice because the only one that I am is me. But also, I also believe in something that I wrote about and I talk about, which is the tribe. And you don't care if someone doesn't like you or criticize you. There's millions of people that are going to align with you and are going to like you and admire you. So just find your tribe. Ignore the naysayers, ignore the ones that everybody has the right to have their own opinion, but you have the right to be yourself.
Yeah, I love that. You have the right to be yourself. When you were in the thick of building your career, did you have any doubts that you would succeed?
No. But I didn't read that as a success. I don't remember me thinking, I'm going to be successful or I want to be successful. I just wanted to be happy. That's what I think. I want to do the things that I'm passionate about, and I want to be happy and free and independent. I always knew that I could accomplish that just because I think this is a little bit of my rebellious spirit. I don't get tied to places or environments or situations that make me unhappy. I think life is too short, too beautiful. There's so much to do. I wish I had like 100 hours each day. I don't have enough time to do all the things that I want to do. I wake up in the morning thinking, I want to do this and that and that and that and that. It's only like this many hours. So what do you want to spend that beautiful life and time tied to people, environments, places, situations that steal your happiness and your joy?
Why do you think it's important to align your career with your values?
When you think about your values, and this is something that everybody actually should think very deeply to understand your values. There are tests, there are games, there are some sort of tools to understand your values, but it's the most important thing, the most valuable thing that you can do for yourself. And you realize that when something bothers you or hurt you or makes you unhappy, when you deeply analyze that situation, it is always because it goes against your values. Mm-hmm. When you are in a situation that goes against your values, you suffer. Yeah. You suffer because of that. So there's so many ways to spend your time, your career, your life with people, environments, jobs that share your own values. That what's the point? Why are you going to waste that opportunity?
Yeah. And I think if going back to your definition of success is happiness.
Exactly. You just tie it all together, because when I I was not planning my career. I was just going with the vibe of,
going with the vibes.
But I always follow my values, and my values, because I did the homework. I understood my values, and my values are freedom, fairness, and independency. So and I'm not talking about freedom to do whatever I want, or without rules or regulations. Freedom to do my craft, freedom to use my creative self, freedom, independence to think, to express ideas, to build things that I want to build. Fairness is very, very important for me. I get in trouble a lot for defending other people that it's not even my business. And justice. And I think that I look for those everywhere I go. The friends I have, the places I work, the partners right now that I'm on my own, the partners that I work with, that align with those values. And if not, believe me, there's not enough money in the world to buy my time. If whomever I'm, doing business with is not aligned with those.
Yeah, I think when you find a job that aligns with your values and you get to work with people that you love and you enjoy being around, work is something that can be so fulfilling, and you just get lost in it because it's amazing,
100%. And then on top of that, I'm not driven by money, but on top of that, you make money.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
that's right.
It's a perfect situation.
Yeah. So you're also building a life for yourself.
Right.
Looking back, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I will say there's going to be tough times where you're going to doubt yourself. Am I good enough? It's okay to be myself. Should I be like this other person? But never, ever, ever change who you are. It's going to work out.
It's amazing. Yeah, no, I love that advice. And it goes back to the originality that we had talked about before. If you had to sum up your career in 3 words, what would that be?
Eclectic, imaginative, and impactful.
I love that. Thank you again, Ivonne, for being on Career Slay. I've loved this conversation with you, and it's just so unique to be able to just have like an in-depth conversation about career. And every time that we get together, I always walk away from these conversations thinking like, oh, I wish everyone could hear how excited and how passionate we are about careers and building that.
Thank you for inviting me. As always, you have this amazing ability to bring the soul out of people, in a conversation. It's amazing. I have never... I think never, all the podcasts and conversations that I have, I never touched my personal life so closely. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you feel like safe enough to open up and share your story. It's an amazing one. The Career Slay podcast is a co-production of Career Slay and Weld Reply, produced by Michael Berg. If you like the show, subscribe and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you're ready to level up, pivot, or lead with confidence, book a coaching discovery call with me at careerslay.com.